Hi, I'm Brad Warren. This is Beyond the Event, a youth ministry podcast presented by Christ in Youth, where we help you maintain momentum between the mountaintops. And those mountaintops are getting very, 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 very close. And this is our last episode of this season of the podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about summer and what life looks like when we're doing all kinds of crazy things and running all over the place. And my guest today to talk through that, among other things, is none other than the director of Move, Lane Moss. Lane, welcome back.
Brad, it is such a delight every time I get to hang out with you and do this. Thanks for having me.
That's so kind.
Well, I meant every word of it.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Every word of it.
Lane, it's like almost summer.
Yeah.
We have some crazy stuff going on. Tomorrow is deadline day. So like everything has to be done. Michael just gagged. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't gag, but I do have a cough. I think that's the reason why. Otherwise, I definitely would have.
Yeah.
So if you hear me cough, I think it's a guarantee almost at this point, and I'm not going to try and hide it.
Event staff get here so soon. In a month.
Yeah, matter of weeks.
And I'm pumped.
I am too.
Okay.
I am too. Yeah, no, I texted Kelly a couple of weeks ago and said...
Who's Kelly?
I'm sorry, Kelly's my wife.
I know that.
Yeah, my wonderful, wonderful wife, Kelly.
She's great.
She is absolutely wonderful. And I texted her a couple of weeks ago and just said, okay, I'm excited for the summer. And I'm always excited for aspects of the summer.
Sure.
But to get excited to go do it, like to, they're long days and they're like weeks away from home and there are all of these other things. And that, I don't spend all year ready for that necessarily, but there comes a time every year when you get there, and that hit just a couple of weeks ago and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. What are the aspects that you're excited for? Curious.
Like that I'm always excited for, or that I'm recently?
This summer that you're like, I'm pumped to try this, pumped to do this.
Well, specifically what I was referring to whenever I text Kelly was just like, I'm just excited to go travel with the teams and to execute the event that we've been planning, and in adult leader meetings. We were talking at lunch today. I'm excited about adult leader meetings. I love them.
I love adult leader meetings.
I do too.
My favorite time of every move is the 15 minutes after adult leader meeting.
Yep. I love
every day.
It's
just the best.
I'm excited for adult leader meetings. I'm excited for our post-session team meetings. Where we celebrate things with one another, pray about things with one another. We spend that time praying for youth groups that are out in their youth group times. And I love praying about those. There's something actually that's really special about praying for people and knowing that in that moment you're coming alongside them in ministry, but you're not there, and like you're not necessarily seeing it happen, but you know that you are, because what we believe to be true about prayer and the work of the Holy Spirit, you are partnering with them in that ministry. There's something really powerful about that. So I love doing that. I love watching students respond and just watching youth pastors and adult leaders hang with their students when they don't know anybody's watching them, and we can just kind of creep on them and look at them just being really good friends and good mentors and good leaders. I just love it. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too. Get to go to a couple moves this summer. You're doing a bunch.
Yep.
Where are you going to be? Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be here in Joplin. I'm going to be in Flagstaff. I'm going to be in Ohio. I'm going to be in California. I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to be in Oregon. I'm going to be in Ireland.
Can you settle this right now here on this podcast?
Yes.
Does California know how to party?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Glad to know that. I've never gotten to do move in California. I'm an East Coast boy, but we are having an open move event in Florida for the first time since a long time ago. 7, 8.
Something like that.
9 long years ago. Mm-hmm. And as a Florida person myself, I am just so pumped about that event.
Same.
So pumped to go to a move in Florida and sweat through my clothes.
Absolutely.
Before 8:30 a.m.
Oh, man.
Have to drink 19 bottles of water a day in order to stay hydrated.
That's right.
Send out an emergency text blast about an alligator on campus.
Sunshine State.
I can't wait. I quite literally cannot wait. I'm so excited.
I'll never forget. Like, I mean, those Florida events, loading out at some of those. We used to do them in like, you know, Panama City Beach and Destin, and loading out into our truck in the afternoon and taking out cardboard boxes of merch and of, you know, cards or prayer cards or whatever we have. And the cardboard boxes literally just disintegrating on the way to the truck because of the humidity, because they're just soaked. It's awesome.
Florida isn't for everybody, but it is for me.
And there's so much momentum behind that event right now. It's going to be great.
Yeah. The first, well, we were talking about this at lunch too. Just the amount of growth that Move is seeing right now is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and talk about numbers for the sake of numbers, because that's not why we do anything.
Correct.
But the fact that we opened up a Move event in Florida. So we have 5 events at the university every summer. And those events last year were full.
Yep.
5 events. If you wanted to go to Lee University, you could not go.
Could not.
And a lot of churches come up from Florida to go to those Lee events. We're like, okay, sweet. Let's put a Move event in Florida, make it a little bit more accessible for those guys. We'll open up some space up at Lee, create some more opportunity for churches that want to go to Lee. First year, sold out Move Florida.
Sold out.
You cannot go.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yep.
And we do have a little bit of space left at Tennessee, but those spots have kind of like filled back up.
Yep.
I don't know. It's hard because it's like, I want to be excited about the events being full, but also,
I
want to have places for people to go, you know?
Absolutely.
And I know churches feel that.
And we're working so hard on that.
I know.
We're working so hard on making sure that we continue to open up more and more space for people to come in. You know, if a church, if a youth leader, you know, and if parents, if they deem fit to allow us to partner with them in ministry and to entrust that part of their ministry to us, then we want to make sure that there's room for everybody to be able to do that. And so, yeah, we're working hard on it.
Okay. So every summer, I want to ask you this too, Michael. Every summer, we travel a lot during the summers.
Yep.
And a little bit later in this conversation, we're going to talk about like work-life balance during the summer. That's something that's hard for us. It's hard for youth pastors. It's hard for everybody. And we're going to talk about how to kind of navigate that. But during the summer, there are always a couple of weeks sprinkled in there that we have off, right? You might travel a couple weeks, make another stop, and then you get to come home for 5 days, and then you hit the road again.
Yep.
What is your favorite thing to do during your time at home, during your breaks at home?
During the summer specifically?
Yeah, during the summer.
Man, that's a good question. Honestly, the thing that came to my head first is no, actually, is to go to the pool with my family. Because my family spends a lot of time there whenever I'm on the road anyway. But that's just like, phones off or, on silent and just put away. My watch is probably on because there are events happening. But other than that, it's just play and it's relax and it's sun and it's all those things. And so that's the thing that comes to my head first. We have a lot of great, a lot of fun 4th of July traditions and stuff too that we try to do in the summer. But
do you take that? Do you have that week off?
4th of July?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take
that one.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we were talking about growth and like how we're trying super hard to make sure that people have a place to go. Mm-hmm. Part of that has meant like adding events like our Florida event. And I haven't really counted, but like we have some weird weeks this year where it's like, okay, the only way we could really make this work is to do an event that starts on a Saturday.
Yeah, totally.
This is the Florida event. Starts on a Saturday, ends on a Wednesday. And I know we've got like a California event that we kind of shoehorned into to a tight spot. And it's like for you there, I wonder how many actual calendar days there are where we don't have any event happening.
Oh man.
I wonder if there are any. There might be a couple earlier in the summer.
Yeah, a couple earlier in the summer.
Weekend days.
Probably. I don't know. I actually haven't checked. Yeah. That's a good question.
It's kind of wild. Michael, what's your favorite thing to do on a week off?
Well, let me cough.
Feel better?
No.
Gazoon tight.
Thank you.
We are in the throes of allergy season.
This is not allergies.
Oh.
No, I was like, today's Wednesday. Last Thursday, my throat was sore. I was like, I'm coming down with something. Friday, pretty bad day.
Tough.
And it's just been a slow uphill climb since. It's probably like my 7th in the last 2 days.
Yeah. Mike Brandt was on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Love Mike.
And
what a guy.
I found out, I didn't know this, that he doesn't like coffee.
Yeah. Right.
He likes lukewarm hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And
it's from the desert.
The day, I don't care. That's
the lukewarm part.
The day that it feels weird to call it like lukewarm hot chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, is it just like liquid chocolate at that point? You know?
I don't know, but like people talk about
drink.
Frozen hot chocolate as like a flavor of things now.
Yeah.
Well, but frozen hot chocolate ice cream is different than just chocolate ice cream.
It is.
Because it was once hot, or
I don't know what the inner workings are.
About?
I just know that I've tasted it.
Yeah,
and it's different.
It seems like a scheme.
It's got like this is gonna be weird, but it's like, I mean, it's almost got like there's some kind of like vanilla creamer or something like that almost in with the chocolate that softens the bitterness of the chocolate a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But I agree with you that frozen hot chocolate or lukewarm hot chocolate is a funny thing. I mean,
it's a weird name.
It's just chocolate.
Anyway,
it's just
the day
water.
that Mike's episode came out, he texted a picture to me and Caleb and Pikel, and he was drinking a lukewarm chocolate.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay.
How he rolls, man.
Favorite thing to do during a week off during the summer?
I think it just kind of depends. A week off, unfortunately, is not always truly a week off because we a lot of times we'll have things going on at the warehouse. Which is just the worst place to be during the summer.
It's the worst.
Because the only sort of like climate control that we have in there is big fans.
This podcast is brought to you by...
It's not brought to you by, but
no.
But to say 2/3 of the name, big fans. And they help, but it doesn't solve the problem. I don't enjoy whenever there's stuff to do in the warehouse when I'm in town, but it's never like full days. There's never like too much to do, but sometimes that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It just always depends. If there's like an event staff team that's in town that has a few people that I have like sort of developed a relationship with over the years as they've come back, I like to try and hang out with them. Or if I'm behind on like video games, I might try and catch up on video games.
Ooh, yeah.
It just always depends. It's never exactly the same.
Yeah.
Lauren, do you have a favorite thing to do on a break?
Lauren's off mic. Oh, debut!
Swim in the pool?
Swim in the pool! That's the first time Lauren's voice has ever been heard on this podcast. She's a real person.
Pool. Absolutely.
I'll make it sound as good as I can.
She likes to swim in the pool. That's incredible.
Yes.
Well, here's to many days for all of you and your
What do you do? What do you do? What do you do on a break in the summer, Brad?
It's a great question. I love something Michael and I have in common. Love going to the movies.
Yeah.
And summer is a great movie time. And so usually I will try to catch 1 or 2 movies during a week off.
A day?
No.
Oh.
But like on a hot summer day, going to a matinee, going to like a 2:00 showing of a movie.
Yeah.
It just rocks.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that, but like
Coke Icy and Mission Impossible. Yeah.
Yes.
All day.
I actually saw the new Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Okay.
At a week of move.
Yeah.
Which is now just Dead Reckoning.
Right.
Yeah.
Not Part 1, but there is a Part 2, but it's not Part 2.
Right. It's Final Reckoning.
Final
Reckoning.
Yeah. Just because death wasn't final.
Right.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah. Right.
A couple weeks late.
That's right.
But anyway, I saw that in Cleveland, Tennessee with Jeremy Stevenson, and it was a nice little date that we had.
It was beautiful. Great. It's beautiful.
Anyway, usually I like to catch a movie. I do rest a lot. I do kind of sleep a lot. I also love working in my yard. So in the mornings and the evenings when it's a little cool, I'll get outside, burn some sticks.
Yeah.
Prune a bush.
Nice.
Harvest some vegetables.
Cilantro.
Well, the cilantro is a cool season vegetable, so by then it's pretty much spent.
Gotcha.
But basil, maybe.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Maybe a tomato. Just one.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I like to
Nice.
do.
Great.
Okay, let's do mailbag real quick, and then we'll get into this conversation that's super important about how to be a functioning human being in all aspects of your life during the summer.
Great. Okay, we have 2 questions from Michelle Cruz that we will ask in sequence.
Michelle
Before getting
Cruz.
to another question by
She's
our
back.
dear friend Matt Berry.
She's so back.
She is so back.
Michelle was a consistent question asker
And I don't know if there were any on the last
on the
big round of questions.
podcast. But yeah, it's been a while since we've had a Michelle Cruz question. I'm excited.
It's Michelle season.
Michelle, welcome back. Okay. She says, I think it was Lane who used to wear those shoes that looked like toe socks. I want to know more about that,
The little
period.
toes.
Not even really a question. She just wants to know more
It's
about
a demand.
that. Yeah.
Vibrams. I did wear Vibrams for a while. Yeah, they did not smell good. It's a flaw of the Vibram.
They have individual. They're socks.
With rubber bottoms.
Okay.
Vibram, a lot of people.
Did you ever wear Vibrams on stage at Move?
I actually don't know. There's a good chance.
People see your toes.
If the answer was going
on
to be
stage
yes,
at
I was
Move.
going to go back up to the warehouse and ask if we could write a policy about Vibrams on stage.
It's like I have to wear jeans on stage, but you're allowed to wear creepy toe shoes.
Toe shoes. If I did, it was early on in my time at CLI because I started wearing them in Tulsa. I was running and read Born to Run, and we will go into all that. But this guy, and I was sold, and they were great. But they didn't smell great. And
what's the perk? Like, what's the advantage?
well,
I don't understand.
the idea is you should read. Just the idea is that like you're.
I should read Born to Run.
Yeah, the idea is that
What is that?
it's-
That's a Bruce Springsteen album. I don't know what you're talking
Hey,
about.
Brad, can you let him answer the question?
I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. It's that like your feet are a marvel of engineering, and modern shoes have actually like reduced their capacity to do what they were designed to do. And so like most world records were set barefoot in terms of like running and distance and speed and things like that. And so there was like a big thing for a while where it's just like, hey, free the feet. Let them,
But not all the way.
So I just
Right.
have a question about those world records that were set barefoot.
I can't probably answer those, but you can try.
Do any of them still stand?
No idea.
I feel like they don't.
Probably
You
not.
know?
Well, they were all set before shoes were ever invented.
Yeah.
No, they weren't.
called, I'm on their website right now. They're called Vibram 5-finger shoes.
Yeah, that's right. So they've always been called.
Are they for monkeys?
They are over $100.
Yeah.
This pair is $150.
Yeah,
And they have individual toes.
that's right.
Why do your toes need to be separated?
Well, modern shoes, like they squeeze your toes together in a way that's unnatural. Your feet don't do this without shoes,
Okay.
but they do with. So like they're designed, like your feet are designed
That's why we
to
get
be like this.
ingrown toenails.
You got it. Enter Vibrams. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm obviously not. I'm not sold on them anymore. There was a season. There was a couple of
There was
years.
a time.
There was a couple of years where I did wear those. Misha's right. Thank you for bringing that to the attention of the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's what it was. And
Do you still have them?
no, gosh, no. I have
They're
no
not
idea.
like buried in a closet somewhere?
They are not.
Okay.
Certainly not.
So she also is asking,
What was the catalyzing incident for you throwing them away?
There's no telling, dude.
Marriage?
I was already married. Kelly had some too for a second, although she never really wore them. But I like bought them for her. I was like, "You should do this." I got in like my hyper evangelism phase for
Did she read
Vibrams for a
Born to
while.
Run?
No, she did not. But she probably read an article that I sent her.
Yeah.
And then big reader, Kelly actually.
She is.
But yeah, but then yeah. So I don't know. They're gone now for a long time. I mean, it's been 15 years, 12 years.
so Michelle also is saying about you, Lane.
Okay.
He has also said, I'm painting you with the quiet brush on a Move stage when I was in high school. It was so weird that it worked.
Yeah.
The question is, does he have more of those, or did he come up with the quiet brush himself?
I remember exactly when I did that. I mean, that was 2005. I was event
You
staff.
were wearing Vibrams.
I was wearing, no, they hadn't even been invented yet. They haven't even made shoes. We were on, so I can't remember if that was in Colorado, I think. And the crowd was a little unruly. The children were restless. And so I said, we had talked about it beforehand. I don't know why Levi Greer, and my little brother Tyler, and there was a few of us that were a part of that. And we had been talking about whether or not to try to use the quiet brush on stage. And yeah, I did. I just said, I went like this. And I said, I'm painting you with the quiet brush. Everybody was like so shocked that they just kind of shut up. I think is what happened. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It did. Levi tried it and it did not work. They revolted.
That's because nothing Levi says is to be taken seriously.
They revolted. It was amazing.
That's funny.
I don't know if Michelle is asking if you have any more of those kinds of tricks, or if she's asking, do you have more of the quiet brushes? Like, do you have any, like, do they come in a 5-pack or something?
Yeah. No, I don't know if I have any more of those other than just like the, shh, that's it's just that my mom, in her children's ministry time, used to say eyeball. And everyone in the room would go click, and it's because your eyes click open and your mouth clicks shut. And so she'd go eyeball, and everybody would go click, and it would just go silent. It was amazing. Huh. I might try that this summer.
Interesting.
Coming to a move stage near you. Yeah. It's eyeball click.
Okay, we have a question from Matt Berry.
The actor?
The actor. Big time favorite of ours. Matt is asking, how do you find the balance between pushing a student who's called into ministry too hard versus not hard enough?
Oh,
boy,
I wasn't ready for that.
the number of times that I've looked at that question, I've gone, that would be a great question. Probably not today, but Lane, today.
Today's the day.
I feel so lucky and honored. That's actually, it really is a great question.
Because you don't want to manipulate people.
No. And to some degree also, I think you trust, if a student is called into ministry and you see something there, I think you can trust that they can also hear and discern the Holy Spirit's leading and the voice of the Lord. And so I think you have to water that and opportunities for that discernment to take place. But I do think that there is some truth to it. I mean, if you just push and just say, no, I think everything else is a bad idea and this is what you need to do, then that's the kind of soil that resentment can grow in, not fruitful ministry. And so I do think my encouragement would be to just spend regular time with that student and just say hey, are you open to this conversation? And I'm not going to push, but are you open to talk, exploring it a little bit together, or are you at least open to praying for what's next for you, praying about what's next for you, and then spend some time doing that. And I, as a youth pastor, I would say too, do that. That's got to be a two-way street. You've got to approach that with an open heart and open hands as well. Because you might find too that, oh no, the Lord has something different for them and ministry in a different form. It may not be vocational. It may be something else. And you may be discerning incorrectly, and so you just need to, maybe your encouragement for ministry in their life might need to look a little bit different than the way that it currently does for you. But I would say, man, just don't be afraid to approach those times with prayer and listening together and those kinds of things. And you might be surprised what the Lord does in their heart. You might be surprised what the Lord does in your heart. But if you're listening well and obeying well, then you won't be disappointed by the results. I can guarantee that. There's no reason for fear. There's no reason for fear for making the wrong decision if you're just trying to take the next right step, the next step into what, whatever part of the path is lit before you at that time by the word of God. Then as long as you're taking that step, then you had nothing to worry about, So
It's good stuff.
it's a great question.
It's a good question. It's a hard question because I know like youth pastors are often like the first people to see that in somebody.
No doubt.
You know, and it's like, how do I push but not be pushy?
And it's certainly a part of a lot of people's stories that they've had a leader, a youth pastor, or a small group leader, or somebody kind of shoulder tap them and just say, hey, I see this in you. And I think this is something that maybe God has like gifted you for and is leading you towards. And I think that's totally in bounds, is to do that. But then if they say, no, I think it's this. And after some prayer and prayerfully considering all that, then I think you go, okay, great. Well, those things that I see in you are still there. They're still true. So how do we marry these two things? Like, what does it look like to lead in the way that I see that you're capable and gifted in, and to do those kinds of things, but to do that in whatever it is that God has called you to? I think that those two things can exist together and can actually exist really beautifully together. And so then it's a matter of figuring out what that looks like, So, you don't want to manipulate, you don't want to do that. But I mean, we're going to do that at Move too. I mean, there's obviously nothing wrong with like saying the Lord has called some of you to do this. Let's boldly step into it. It might make you a little nervous. It might make you a little bit of, whatever, but we're doing that big time at Move this summer. And we believe in it.
I also think that Jason French will bust through that door right there and kill us if we don't talk about how the role that like meaningful service opportunities play in this too.
For sure.
And I would agree with him. Obviously I think you would too. But like sometimes it doesn't start with a conversation about ministry. Sometimes it starts with a conversation about, it is a conversation about ministry. It doesn't start with a conversation about vocational ministry. It starts with a conversation about, hey, I think you'd be good at this. You want to come try? You want to come do it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to hop on stage and lead this moment? You want to lead a middle school small group? You want to, whatever that may be, just to kind of like put them in a position where God could have an easier time breaking through some of the noise of life and getting a hold of those students. But yeah, it's a hard thing.
The danger is that you're going to push so hard that you're going to have what I assume is some kind of a leader in your youth group, right? Or at least has potential for leadership. Is why you're seeing this leadership at some capacity. Maybe not out front leadership, but maybe it's behind the scenes, whatever it is. The fear is, the danger is that you're going to push that person so hard that you're going to have a really great person graduate your youth group feeling like you're disappointed in them. And man, oh Lord, like we don't want that. We don't want somebody to leave the youth group to graduate or whatever else, and to go on to whatever's next in their life, feeling like they let down, the youth leader or whatever else. Like,
right.
Yeah, that would be a total bummer.
Yeah, it would be. Okay. Is that it?
Yep. So
is that a wrap on season 4 mailbag?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Well, great questions.
Great questions. Boy. Thank you, Michelle, for enlightening us about the life of Pass Lane. And thank you to Matt for just a treasure trove of questions that he asked all season long.
A true wellspring.
Yeah.
Truly.
So this is normally the point in our podcast when I would say, okay, let's go have a conversation with so-and-so, but it's just Lane. We're having a conversation with Lane. So we're going to jump right into this. No. We're very excited. We're all happy about this. All right, here's the premise. You, a few minutes ago, you rattled off all the different places you're going to be this summer.
Yep.
You start your summer here in Joplin. At Missouri 1, get to sleep in your own bed. That's nice. Still working hard, though. In the months of June and July, 61 days, you'll probably be on the road, I don't know, between 40 and 50 of those days.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I'm guessing. Not going to do the math right here as we speak. So I want to know how you stay connected to Jesus when you're out of your routine, because I know that you're a man of discipline, and it's like I have things that I do. What? No. Are you nodding no right now?
About being a man of discipline?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, you are. Stop.
I try.
Shut up. Okay. But it's like, okay, I have a routine, and when I break out of the routine, how do I continue to do that? I want to know how you stay emotionally healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how you stay married. I want to know how you continue to be a good dad. Because it's hard, and youth pastors are in the same position, right? If you, I mentioned Jeremy Stevenson's name earlier. That man is leading a mission trip to Spain.
Yeah,
he's going to mix.
Yep.
He's going to move with his church.
Yep.
He's directing a week of move.
Yep.
And directing 2 weeks of move.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like youth pastors. Your summer calendar also is slammed and also is out of the ordinary. And so we see you and we feel that too. And I think that Lane, you're just a really good guy to kind of speak into this a little bit. So why don't we start here? This might be a bad place to start, but I think it might be a good place to start. Just what I feel like you like routine in some sense. Mm-hmm. What value does routine play in your like normal life, your baseline? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, let's just kind of start there.
I do like routine. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram for what it's worth, and so like I'm motivated by fun. So most of what I do is just trying to get from wherever I am to wherever it looks like is going to be a good time.
Pool.
Right. Yeah, you got it. So routine has not always been something that I like naturally gravitate towards. Neither is discipline, for that matter. And so that's something that I've learned a lot about from good people in my life. And my wife is very, disciplined. And, so I've learned a lot from her in that way. And just from, and so I've grown there, but I'm still, I still kind of like have to, it's a battle that I got to fight. But I have the thing that makes the battle so worth it, is because it is undeniably better when I am able to find some rhythm.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a more appropriate word for what for me than even routine is a little bit. Routine factors into that. But rhythm, is more important. And the reason is because life is so different in so many different seasons.
Yeah.
So it's different over Christmas time than it is over, January and February. And it's different in January and February than it is in April and May. And it's way different in July than it is in any of those times.
Sure.
And so routine gets thrown off quick.
Yeah.
But you can still, even when your routine is shattered or very different, you can still prioritize rhythm. And that has been, you can still prioritize, okay, well, what does it look like for me to seek Jesus first in the morning before I do other things? The rhythm or the routine might not always be the same, but those are the rhythms that can still be helpful. What does it look like to have rhythms where I'm like trying to recenter myself in the middle of the day, beginning, middle, and end of the day? The routines can vary, the rhythm stays. To stay like physical, to stay as physically healthy as I can. Routines can vary, rhythms are important, and the rhythm is what's consistent. So, hugely important, and has become more important. Just as I think just I don't know if it's become more important, but I've realized more the importance of it the older that I get, and the more that I realize how connected physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of those things are just like are so connected for me, that it's huge. If I want to love people by giving them my best, which is what I want to do, the people in my life, churches, and friends and family, and one of the ways that I love them, probably the primary way that I love them is by giving them my best. If I want to do that, then I have to be healthy, and so rhythm is important for me.
So there's an elephant in the room for me that I just want to kind of like say.
Sure.
And I think it'll be helpful to people who are listening. This conversation is heavily influenced by a man named Justin Whitmore Early.
Absolutely.
who has written just 2 or 3.
A couple,
Books.
3 and 4th.
So he's got
fourth will be out this
Habits
fall.
of the Household.
Common Rule.
Common Rule is the big one for me.
Made
And
for
then
People.
Made for People. That's right. So I think I don't remember if it's even him, but I think that it is, who talks about ruts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does mention that. Yeah.
And how like we always have kind of, or people tend to view ruts as like a bad thing.
I'm in a rut.
I'm in a rut.
Right.
Like almost interchangeably with like, I'm in a season of poor mental health.
Sure.
You know? And he's like trying to redeem that a little bit and saying like, okay, a rut is actually really helpful if you're pulling a wagon and you need to get somewhere, because that is a place that is carved into the road where that wheel is supposed to be, right?
Yep.
And it's hard to get out of it on purpose. So he talks a little bit about like, how do we create ruts in our own spiritual life that no matter what the circumstance is, like you're talking about, is it Christmas time? Am I on the road during the summer? Is it a normal Wednesday where I'm going to be at work from 8 to 5? No, it doesn't matter because I have this rut.
That's right.
That I'm kind of staying in. What are some of those for you?
Ruts?
Yeah. Or just like you use the word
rhythms.
Rhythm. Yeah. Pick your poison. I don't care.
So Bible before phone, I can do really any all year long. There's really not a season where that is unattainable. You know, is scripture before phone, and that's just huge. It's amazing. This is
just to elaborate on that just a tiny bit. I wake up in the morning before I look at my phone. I'm in the Word.
Yeah. Now there's a good chance you're turning your alarm off on your phone or something like that.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. It's before social media. Or something like that. Or I don't know, Minesweeper. Maybe you're a big Minesweeper guy, so it'd be before that.
Sure, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
I'm a big crossword guy.
Yeah,
I'm 100.
Crosswords.
So, do I do the New York Times crossword every day? I do.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I just think that like I just don't know that I literally don't know if there's any one that is as important as that.
Okay.
Just in terms of if you're, attached to just scrolling, you are scientifically more anxious. You are more like you know what I mean? You're more all of these things. And so it's just, if we want to be less of that, then there is a very simple thing that you can do to be less of that. It's not a silver bullet.
Sure.
But it is a less of that thing and more, focused on Word of God, truth of God. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I'll give you rest.
Yeah.
Let's start there, and then, so then it's get up in the morning and schedule my coffee, wake up, and get my coffee, go out and sit in my chair in my living room and fight like all heck to not think about all the things that are going to be happening that day, and instead try to spend some time in the Word and in prayer.
So let's kind of start here. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're right.
Even just then, you painted a picture of yourself in your living room, right? Which is where you wake up most mornings. In your own bed, going into the living room, making coffee, sitting in your chair,
right?
And reading the Word of God.
Yep.
And as much as we would want to say that we try to like make those things consistent, regardless of what the setting is, for me, and I don't have the same routine as you, but for me, that would be a difficult thing to superimpose onto a week of move.
Oh, big time. Yeah, sure.
So what is that, Right.
to have. And so there's a way. I mean, I can set my alarm with enough time to give myself a slow morning, but the nights are much later at move as
Right.
well. So sleep just in that and across a several week long summer that becomes
harder.
So
It's harder the third week of July than it is the second week of June.
you got it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's still important. So I still try to do that. But even if you can't have the slow morning that you think you can have, you can still have Bible before phone. That can still be one of those things that is, even if it's relatively brief or, whatever else that is still attainable,
Yeah.
And maybe it's even,
If it's just like reading Psalm 23 while you're
Absolutely.
laying in bed before
Absolutely.
I get up for
Yep.
the day,
earbuds, listening to scripture while you're walking across campus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To that that kind of thing is huge as well. So yeah, I mean, it's still there. You can still accomplish it.
So here's another thing. Here's just the way my brain works is I'm hearing you kind of like talk about your life and I'm thinking how I would respond if I was you in certain situations, you know what I mean? And I feel like if this was a rule that I wanted to put in place in my life, which it is, I would love to do that. I don't, that I would be really hard on myself.
Yeah.
That it would become like a legalistic thing.
Totally.
A little
Sure.
bit, that it's like, okay, I have this practice that I kind of like, it's really important in my relationship with God that I do this. And then all of a sudden it's been 3 days and I haven't.
Yep.
And now I'm thinking like, oh gosh, another thing that I've dropped the ball on. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Help me with that.
2 things. First of all, again, this is Justin, a little bit early. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So like it's, so it's like, drop the ball 3 out of 7 days is so much better than none out of 7 days.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's great. Like that's awesome. So celebrate that. Like try to like live in that kind of celebration and in that kind of awareness of this was good for me. I think even the 3 days I did this, they were healthy. But then also I have to remind myself too that I'm not doing this so that I have any kind of favor with God throughout the day. Or
Right.
I'm not doing this I'm doing this because it's genuinely, because it's God's invitation to me.
Yeah.
To try to center my morning around Him, and
It's
then
an anchor.
it's an anchor,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it truly is an invitation to a better way of living. I think to a better way to go about my day anyway. And so so thinking of it that way, instead of thinking of it as like these are, I'm doing this things, because it gets easy to beat yourself up or whatever. But anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, and so celebrate the wins. But you always, the losses always hurt more than the wins feel good, I think, oftentimes. And so it's hard to like recenter,
Yeah.
but
Which is just purely like an ego achievement
thing. Sure.
But got to work through that, I guess, too. So,
sure.
okay. I kind of interrupted you. Let's kind of circle back to the beginning of the conversation again. What else
So,
is there?
so try to do things that that maintain physical health. And that looks different seasonally too, depending on routines and, depending on, everything else. But, I have an alarm that goes off in the middle of my day as well, because what's easy for me is to forget that, Dallas Willard calls it the with God life, which is just like that, Brother Lawrence talks about the presence of God. That's right. Yeah. And so it's easy for me to forget that I have a foot in 2 places. It's not about being in a monastery by yourself, or like being out by some like babbling brook and I'm sitting there in solitude, in a silence, or, solitude retreat or something like that. That's cool. If you can, manage to do that kind of thing, it's great. But that's not what most life is. But that doesn't mean that you still can't be as intimately connected to the Father as you are during those times, while I'm backstage talking to our backstage manager,
Right.
and getting, about what's going to go on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
Or
For Brother Lawrence, it was peeling potatoes.
that's exactly
right?
that's exactly right. And so what I've tried to do is try to find things in my life that I can do that keep me to live in that awareness. And so one of those things is I have an alarm that goes off at 11:35. every day. That just is that is just that reminder. And it actually just says kneel, because I would like to kneel in prayer during that time. But again, that's not like a legalistic thing. And there are obviously times when that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do that in the middle of Target or whatever else, but I am going to try to take I've stopped what I'm doing and take a posture. That is even subtle and is even for 15 or 20 seconds.
Right.
But whatever it does, just like re-posturing myself physically even is just like a reorienting of, okay, maybe even like the first part of my day is finished now. And now I'm going to think about like the next part of my day in terms of not like planning out my schedule or whatever else, but in terms of, okay, maybe I can't keep 24 hours. I can't remember that I'm, living in two places for 24 hours, but maybe I can for 4 at a time,
Yeah.
So that's another routine. That alarm goes off every day. And so every day at 11:35, I spend a little bit of time in prayer, trying to make, again, like recognize God's presence. And then just telling him like, Lord, I want to give this part of my day to you, and doing that. So that's really helpful too.
Yeah. So there's like an ideal, I feel like, and this might be at the root of like why this is difficult for this type of thing is difficult for me, and maybe why the word rhythm is a much better word than the word routine, is because like I think we all have like an ideal, like you talked about being by a creek and having time to pray, and in a sense, you're speaking my language.
Totally.
I'm probably not by the creek. I'm in the creek with a fly rod in my hand,
totally. Yep.
And that's my space, you know what I mean? But even if, like we've all seen, and some of us have done this, definitely not me, for sure. I've never done this, but like had the Instagram Bible study, I definitely have done this.
Sure. Yeah.
And where it's like, oh, look, my Bible and a cup of coffee and the sun coming up over the horizon,
Wonderful experience.
And it's a great experience. And, but like, then we get that ideal in our mind, and then anything that doesn't meet that becomes like less valuable for some reason, in terms of like helping to maintain our relationship with God. Is like, man, I really wanted to set my alarm 30 minutes early every day so that I could get up, get dressed, brush my teeth, have breakfast, and then have 30 minutes where I can just sit and be in God's word. But then like it becomes anything less than that, where it's like, maybe I am rushing to get up and get dressed, and then I have to put on the YouVersion app in my car and listen to a psalm while I'm driving into work or whatever. Feels like, just like a less valuable experience. And I really like the rhythm thing because it says, no, actually not true,
Right.
You're still in a place where you're centering yourself on God's will. At this time of the day or whatever it may be.
And I think mountains and valleys, man. You know what I mean? Like the mountaintop is in those kind of opportunities when you get, when you have the Instagram Bible study, moment or whatever, they're phenomenal. And like, ask the Holy Spirit to call those things to your mind while you're sitting there, not so that you can experience them, but so that you can thank God for them and know that it's the same God, who is, it's even harder to even fathom, like, oh, you're with me here. Like you're in my living room. You're in the same way that you are, in the stream or the mountains or the, whatever else. So yeah, it's more mundane, but in that way, maybe more sweet.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears.
Yeah.
Unless you got something else.
No, go for it.
Okay. Relationships. Okay. Community. I'm most listeners of the podcast know this. Not married, don't have children. You are married. You do have 3 children. You still have 3?
I still.
Okay.
Yeah. Still.
I didn't know if Knox,
you never know.
You just never know. So anyway, during the summer, Well, like community is kind of hard for me anyway. You know what I mean? But the first several years that I lived here, it felt like I was just like hitting a hard reset button every summer.
Yeah.
Like I would kind of have friendships and whatever, and it was great throughout the year. And then summer would hit and I would come back from summer and feel pretty isolated, you know, because there was no like habit or routine of being in community with those people for such a long stretch of time. Very important to keep those things going during the summer, and I'm curious what that looks like for your family.
Yeah. So obviously family and friends, those are different conversations, you know, how you do that kind of community. But so specifically for my family, one of the things that we kind of learned early is that and sure, I think this is also going to be different for everybody. In fact, I know people, you know, that we have, you know, people at CLI who the way that they approach this with their family is very different. Not better than the other necessarily. What we have found to be helpful for our family is Kelly and I, you know, we ended up having one of the things that used to frustrate us is that sometimes in the summer we're, you know, very busy days, all these kinds of things. And so we used to say like, we don't really have time to connect, or we don't have time to talk, or we don't have time to, and actually that's not true. What we don't always have time for is like significant, meaningful conversations.
Right.
Sometimes we have time for it. A lot of times we don't in the summer, but we always, and so it was kind of like there was a time when we almost took an all or nothing approach. It was like, we don't have that, so then we don't have anything.
Kind of, it's the same idea.
Yeah, right.
It's like whatever the Instagram Bible study version of
that's
a
exactly
conversation
right.
with your wife is. It's
totally.
Like,
yeah.
If I can't do that, then why do anything?
Right.
You know?
And so one of the things that's, I think, been the healthiest for us over the last few summers is actually just like, again, I mentioned earlier, but like I know this walk is going to take 6 or 7 minutes while I'm walking across campus, maybe a little more. So I'm just going to call Kel and just like chat with her for a little bit. And that makes honestly what's important for my wife and for her love language is to feel like she's a part of the things that I do. And for me to be a part of the things that she's doing, you know, whether, you know, that's, you know, with her job or she's at home with the boys or whatever it is, but for us to not feel like we're doing those things totally separate from one another, even though that is kind of the reality.
Yeah.
But however we bring each other into, and again, that is the mundane. So like, be just like calling Kelly while I'm walking across, you know, while I'm walking across campus and just kind of telling her about what I had for breakfast and like what I'm excited about for the day or whatever, you know, and hearing about how, you know, their morning went at home or their, you know, whatever it is. So it's being okay with like little things that are seemingly less significant, but are actually massive in terms of like how we stay healthy together. And then every chance I get, I also FaceTime, you know, with the boys and, you know, chat with them a little bit. And then we have like, you know, running jokes and running things we do every time I you know, try to explore new coffee shops wherever I'm at. And, you know, that's, you know, connect with Knox that way. Cause you know, he's a big coffee guy. And so I send him this one and here's where I am. And then he'll look it up and, you know, talk to me about all that, you know, that kind of stuff and everything. And talk to, you know, Ledge about his job and my job and how, you know, all that kind of. So anyway, you just kind of
working at Chick-fil-A is basically
working at CLI.
Working at CLI.
Kingdom work,
baby.
Kingdom work, baby. So yeah. So again, it's routines, you know, and if I know, like keeping an eye on the, or it's rhythms, I should say, keeping an eye on the time difference. And knowing that, you know, I'm like, it's gonna be bedtime for them long before it is for me.
Right.
And just trying to at least acknowledge that.
That's true if you're in the same time zone.
So it's true, yeah. At least acknowledge that in a text, you know, even if I can't, you know, call and tell everybody good night that night and everything else. Maybe I just like send a quick video to them, or maybe I at least am able to text them and just say, you know, love you guys and, you know, love you and miss you and can't wait to see you or can't wait to talk to you in the morning or whatever.
Was that like, I'm 99% sure I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it as a question anyway. Is that something that you and Kelly had to have a conversation about? Like, this is what this is the form our relationship is going to have to take during the summers? Or was that something that evolved over time?
Yes. It is something that we have had to have multiple conversations about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, here's the truth. Like whenever I'm
Like you're not just going to naturally settle into.
oh man, no.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's multiple conversations, and not all of them like, hey, could we have a conversation about, you know what I mean? Like it's
conversations.
You know, oftentimes they're born out of frustration,
Yeah.
you know, and born out, you know, and that kind of thing. And
It's
I've
like,
had,
this was a fight.
yeah, sure, you know, and, but over time, you know, like, over time, just like trying to listen well and for both of us. And,
Well, and it helps to like Kelly. I know this about Kelly, that I've talked to her about this. That it's very, like, she is very bought into the mission of CIOI.
big time.
And it is missional for her to kind of be it's missional for her to be uncomfortable for a season. And to maybe not have the ideal for a season, in order for you to be able to do what she feels like and sees and notices that God has called you to do through your work with CIY. So I feel like that needs to be said too, that's just a huge foundational, like, underlying piece of this as well.
It is. And because it is uncomfortable for seasonally because she's a quality time person. Like that's her primary love language. That is hard to come by in the summers.
Yeah.
And so that has been, you know, tremendous sacrifice for her that she feels. And here's the thing. I had this conversation with a friend, you know, at work, and I've had it with different youth pastors and stuff as well too, is that one time I remember talking to one of our coworkers and we were heading out on a trip together. We were leaving early in the morning to go catch a flight, and I noticed they were kind of quiet. And so we got to talking and they just said, yeah, well, this was a hard trip for my spouse and for my wife. And so and they said it, and they were almost like a little bit sheepish about it because their impression was that everybody, that was unique to them.
Yeah.
That their household was the only one that struggled with the travel or the schedule or something. Right. And I was like, oh dude, no, like, no. I think that's pretty much everybody, and to varying degrees, sure. But and the other thing I said is like, and also kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I want my house to not feel whole whenever
you're not there.
Whenever any of us are not there. Whether it's one of my sons because they're at camp, or or Kelly because she's doing something, or me. I want it to feel like abnormal,
sure,
and to feel uncomfortable. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know. And so there's. That's not.
But it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. But there also is sacrifice. I mean, I don't travel as much in the summer as I could, because I also want to I have to give some too, and make sure that we do have that quality time and that we do have that. And so I want to, we work out, we try to do our best to work out our family schedule for the summer together so that she can also speak into my travel a little bit and that kind of thing. So that's huge.
Yeah.
And we don't, by the way, we've been doing it for a long time. We don't have it totally figured out. Summers aren't perfect all the time. Like we don't get it, it's
like you said, it's like, it's never, I don't think it's ever going to be easy for Kelly when you leave. I don't know if this is still true, but 5 years ago or whatever, she made a comment to me that I cry every time Lane, every time Lane leaves. And it's like, that's sucks. That's terrible. But it doesn't mean that she doesn't think you should be doing what you're doing.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. It just is something to be worked out.
Yeah.
And that takes a lifetime, I'm sure.
Totally does. Yeah. Totally does.
Maybe
so we just try
lifetimes.
But it's so important that it's so important that we enter into that together. And again, there's little conversations throughout the week or wherever I am, and just kind of keeping her, involved and everything. Because she genuinely wants to be. And that helps a lot too. That helps her. That helps me. That helps, the whole thing. So
super great. Okay. Last piece of this puzzle, which is another one that's difficult for me, is just kind of maintaining an emotional, mental balance during the summer, especially because I mean, traveling the way that we do, traveling the way that youth pastors do is just kind of a pressure cooker. Emotionally, it's not just like you're busy and not getting enough sleep, even though you are busy and you are not getting enough sleep. There's also just a very like heavy component to what we do. You know, every day that we're on the road, we're having conversations with youth pastors or with students who are in real time dealing with very real things.
Yeah.
And, you know, every summer we end up on the phone with DCFS. Every summer we, you know, like we have to deal with a lot of heavy stuff in a very concentrated period of time. Because summer and it kind of just brings that out. So I'd imagine that being grounded in the word, being grounded in the relationships that are important to you plays into this. But I want to kind of take that one step farther and just talk about how the heck we are supposed to like try to even begin to maintain emotional health when we're in these seasons, you know?
Yeah. So again, it's amazing how connected these things are. So finding ways to be like physically healthy. So like you know, my you know, which is hard to do whenever you're in cafeterias that, you know, so like almost every meal is beige, you know, like
a lot of yellow food.
Like exclusively. So like, I'm like I eat salads like 2 meals a day, you know, whenever I'm on the road for that reason.
Salads is a generous term.
It is.
Some bib lettuce with ranch dressing on it. It's like this was the option.
Right. Yeah, but it's a little green. And so, but you know, we know this: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, you know, halt. That's when we're most susceptible to temptation, to, you know, emotional bottoming out, to, you know, any of those kinds of things whenever and in the summer for me, I'm the most of all of those things.
Right. Than you are at any other time.
I'm the most hungry, often the most angry, depending on what's going on though, you know, the most lonely and the most tired. And so a lot of it is just stepping into it with that awareness and putting some things in place ahead of time. That's where rhythm comes in. Like rhythm is absolutely massive in terms of like, and it's mostly spiritual. And then it's also being honest with the right people. So I loved, man, it's
high school students on stage. Is that
high school students on stage. Yeah. Right. There is something to that.
Can I tell you something? I've got something that's just kind of like,
I'm so angry. There's something to that. Well, like we should be, you know, authentic and everything, but
well, there's a time and a place.
There's a time and a place. I so appreciated, it was this morning for us at the time of recording, but release it'll be, you know, a couple weeks later. But Daniel Wheeler led our staff Devo this morning, and we did kind of like a Visio and Lectio Divina. And you know, one of the things that she talked about as we like looked at this watercolor, you know, picture of Christ in the garden and praying in agony and everything was one thing she talked about is like our Messiah didn't have a Messiah complex and allowed his agony in that moment and his despair in that moment and loneliness in that moment and all those things. He allowed it to not only be observed, but recorded and things like that. And so how open does that leave the door for us to be open about those things as well? And so with the right,
not have to present like we have it all together.
Absolutely.
Right.
Exactly. And and that's such a more emotionally and spiritually healthy place to be than pretending. And I'm more and more convinced all the time that nobody is served well when we pretend that we have it all together.
Right.
Nobody is. It sets a fake goal that other people then try to live up to. It sets a fake bar that other people try to live up to. And it diminishes the work of Christ in our lives. And it diminishes the hope that we have and the grace that we are living by, and the mercy that was new for us when we woke up that morning. And so God help us if we walk around diminishing those things as we try to go about the work that He has invited us into. Jeez, oh Pete. So finding the kinds of people that you can also be open with about those things while you're on the road, even and that you can be talking about those things and in a way that is, healthy, and we don't got to get, go into all the ins and outs of what is and what isn't healthy in those things. But having those kinds of people and being real about it. And then again, but doing the work in each of those areas and in trying to maintain physical health and not just letting it, just letting it rip during the summer. Cause it's like, well, what else? I'm going to eat ice cream every night, super late. I mean, when I was in at a certain time, but not now. And so, trying to find some time for exercise, physical exercise, Bible before phone, maintaining, communication with people in my life that are important, and, that kind of thing is just, huge.
Yeah. I think my big takeaway in all of these areas is, Chase Alcott is a board member here, worked here for a long time, owner operator of Chick-fil-A in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Yep.
And, he was talking to me and my boss, your cousin, Titus Weiss, about some of the customer training, like customer service training stuff that they do at Chick-fil-A. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the survey that you get sometimes after you go there, and you fill out the survey and you get a free sandwich.
Get a sandwich,
which is the dream.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
I pray for that survey every time I eat there. And he said something that was so fascinating to me, and I just it stuck with me, and I apply this to almost everything that I interact with mentally these days, which probably isn't great. But so you fill out that survey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're rating things, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. What they see at their restaurants is pass or fail. Okay. 5 is pass. 4, 3, 2, 1 are all fail.
Sheesh.
So if you put 5 on that survey, then they did what they were supposed to do.
Heavens.
And that's great.
High standards for those chicken slingers, man.
I know, for a fast food restaurant. But if you put a 4, it's like, this was mostly good, but not like the best that it could have been.
Fail.
To them, that's the same as it being
Sheesh.
a 1.
Sheesh.
Okay?
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that is the mentality that I approach a lot of things in my life with.
Sure.
And maybe the mentality that I approach a lot of these things that we're talking about with, where it's like, if my quiet time with Jesus is not a 5, then it's a 1. If my physical health is not a 5, then it's a 1. If my emotional health is not a 5, then it's a 1. And I think just having, you use the word awareness a lot today, just like having the awareness that like I have to hit some 4s and some 3s.
Yeah.
And that's okay for a season. Because it's going to help me continue to like keep rhythms that allow me to stay grounded in my faith, in my relationships, and those things. So that was a really helpful thing to me, I think.
Good.
I don't know. As we walk through this.
Well, it's been helpful for me. I mean, that's what even, this is kind of an aside. And so I don't know if this makes the final edit or not, but it's, somebody asked me last summer, the summer before, they were just like, hey, how do you guard against, cause it was one of our event stuff actually. And they were like, man, I'm just really struggling with being like, with cynicism right now. I'm just like wondering if like this matters, and they're like, how do you guard against that? And, and just like watching these, what should be the highlight of watching these students respond and make these decisions and everything else. It's funny how that can become almost a low when cynicism starts to creep into your heart. And I'm not naturally given to cynicism, but it is something that I try to be intentional about fighting against. And one of the things is it goes back to awareness a little bit of just going like, well, to know that there is some reality to that. Where life is going to be different for these people when they get home than it is here, and that's the nature of being on top of a mountain, and then going down the mountain, and life looks different, and everything else. But also, but if you're aware of it, then you can pray in a different kinds of way for those people, and you can pray in a different kind of way for your own heart too. And Lord, guard me against this, and you can recognize it quicker and easier, and like when you're just it's alertness, it's awareness, it's vigilance.
Yeah.
Vigilance.
Constant vigilance.
Constant vigilance.
Who says that?
I don't know.
There's a character in Harry Potter that says that.
Oh,
Mad-Eye Moody.
I think it was Ross. Like, Unagi. Estate.
There are two kinds of people.
People who love friends and liars.
Oh, this has been a great conversation. Oh my goodness. I'm exhausted from it. I feel
I don't know how to do that.
You're exhausting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I took it the right way. That is how I took it.
No, it's just like challenging. It's good. You know.
Good.
What do you think, Pikel?
It's challenging for me too.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Pikel thinks it's great.
Yeah.
Dude, is it a 5 or is it a 1 through a 4?
Listen, all I'm saying is when Chick-fil-A sees me walking through those doors, they know they're getting a fail.
Woof.
4s across the board, baby.
Yeah, man.
It's funny because I used to fill that survey out like thinking I was being helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't just want to give straight 5s
Well,
because like,
hopefully in theory you are.
huh? Oh,
Being helpful? Yeah.
I guess that's true. But I don't want to be mean.
Sure.
I need people to like me, Michael. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Okay.
Do I need to be loved? I don't remember what I was. Do I need to be liked?
Okay. Well, on that note, season 4 of Beyond the Event is coming to an end.
Man, what a time. I mean, memories were made.
Memories were made. Laughs were shared.
Yeah.
Brads were challenged. Maybe others too.
Herbs were grown.
Herbs were grown.
Harvested.
And
Not
remembered.
yet. Harvested in the summer. Yeah. And remembered.
And remembered.
Herbs were remembered. Yeah.
All right.
Backs were adjusted. Herbs were remembered.
All right. So one last time before we head into a crazy summer, Lane, you want to read our blessing for us?
I sure do. May God show you his grace and bless you. May he make his face shine on you. May you experience the love of Christ through whom God gives you fullness of life. May you be strengthened by his power. May Christ himself make his home in your heart, that you would be full of his love and grace, and that those you serve would see Jesus in you. Amen.
Today's episode was produced by Michael Hester, Lauren Bryan, and myself. Huge thanks to Lane for being here and chatting with us about what's going to be hopefully a really awesome summer. No new episode in 2 weeks. We'll be back in August. In the meantime, you can reach out to us on the CIY Community Facebook group or by email at podcast@ciy.com. Happy summer! See you next time.